welcome to the Twisted Siblings podcast. I am Charlotte.
And I'm Kelly.
And if you haven't already guessed from the title, we are sisters and strangely share the same passion for true crime. So I thought we would do like a little bit of background as it's our first episode on how we both found our passion for true crime, and then we'll get to the good stuff, the stuff you're really here for. So did you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, fine. So my job by day is I am a full-time content creator with, same as my husband. I have 2 children, and my passion for true crime came quite early. I remember binging and watching so many CSI box sets, and once I'd done all that, I found my love for science and went on to do forensic science in college. I did then not audition. You don't audition, do you? What do you do with the police? Like
interview?
Apply. Interview. So I did all that with the police because then I was going to go into like be scene of the crime officer. But unfortunately, I just wasn't strong enough to do the push and pull test, so I failed that. And then 10 years later, I'm on a podcast with my sister. So that's my story. What about you?
So I am a midwife by trade, and I also have 2 children. My love for true crime actually came a little bit later, I think, when I was on maternity leave and I was very bored and happened to stumble across some true crime documentaries. And then ever since those, I've been hooked. And I think I've watched probably all of the true crime documentaries on YouTube and eagerly await more to come out each week.
Yes, definitely. We both share the same passion, but you're better with facts. Like, you retain so many. I'll say something about a case, you'll be like, yes, I know that one. And you'll give me the date. And I'm like, what? How do you do that? But yeah, every time we're together, we find a documentary or something to watch, don't we?
We do, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's super exciting. We just decided to do a podcast and just share our love for true crime, and I know there's a lot of us out there, so I thought it'd be worth a listen. So today's episode, I'm going to be telling the story. So we're going to take it in turns, basically, alternate weeks. I'll be telling a story and then Kelly will be telling a story to me. And we'll just have a conversation, and yeah, we would love to know your thoughts, and also we will open up eventually to like suggestions and stuff. So I think there's enough true crime to keep us going, don't you think?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, it's but yeah, so anything to add before we go?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm excited. So I have chose one today that I feel like is so not spoken about enough. It's a serial killer, and his name's Israel Keyes. And I just feel like I until very recently haven't heard of this name. You said you have, right?
I have, yeah. I've heard of him in other podcasts that I've listened to as well, when they are still a cold case and there's no determinate killer, and sometimes they put his name to it because it could be him. But yeah, I think you're right. For what he did and how he was, he's not actually spoken about anywhere near as much as some of the big names we do all know about.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he's on like the likes of Ted Bundy's level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if not worse. So a little bit of background on Keyes and his upbringing. So he came from quite a big family. He was actually second born out of a grand total of 10 children. So it was him and 9 siblings, and they were all homeschooled. So as a family, they lived like quite an isolated, secluded life. And his parents decided to kind of up and leave their family home and relocate to Colville, Washington. Obviously, we're from the UK, so if we butcher any of these names of these places, please let us know, because pronunciation is not my strong point. So that was when he was just 5 years old. So they had their religion, but not a lot else. They lived without electricity, running water, and the children were made to hunt their own food, chop their own wood, and work in their local farm shop. So yeah, it's nothing like the way we live now, basically.
Quite an old-fashioned, sheltered life, isn't it?
Right, yeah. So it's just them and their family, I guess. So they did everything by themselves. So obviously it's not considered normal to us the way they were brought up, but obviously, even with that being said, they could never have predicted the life that he would go on to live would be. So he did, when he was a young age, dabble in some trouble. So like your normal things, you know, upsetting the neighbours, he was made to apologise, that kind of thing, but nothing that was too alarming. Just the normal, like, preteen stage that most kids will go through. So that's just a little bit of background just to cover him and how he grew up. Not that I think that tells us a lot about him and what he would become. Let's dive in to the thing that kind of put him on the map, which is the kidnapping of a young lady, 19 years old, Samantha Koenig. Spelled Koenig. Would you pronounce?
Yeah, Koenig.
Yeah. Which then actually led to his arrest and discovery of the most chilling serial killers in American history. I think he's up there. It all started on February the 1st. It was just like any other day. Samantha was going to work. She worked at the Common Ground coffee stand in Anchorage, Alaska. A man in a ski mask ordered a coffee. And unfortunately, Keyes had decided that she was his next victim.
So he was in a ski mask. Is that quite common? Mask. They live in Alaska, but I've never been there. So is he gone in like dressed
cold
as a killer? Or does everybody walk around in ski masks?
I actually have no idea. That's such a good point. I didn't think of, like, so when he walked in, was she alarmed?
Yeah.
Or was it the norm?
Yeah. Was attention drawn to him, or was everybody walking around like that?
Right, because like here, when you go into a shop, you're normally supposed to take off hats and stuff like that.
No helmet.
Obviously, CCTV, need to pick up your face. So I don't know. It's a very cold place, obviously. It was a crime of opportunity. He saw Samantha. He decided that day that he was going to kidnap her. There was no kind of indication. It was, like I said, a crime of opportunity. He didn't necessarily follow a pattern. He didn't care for hair colour, race, gender. Once he decided what he was going to do and that he was going to take a life, it was just kind of whoever was there at the time that he felt was fit. So it was 12 a.m. Her day was nearly over. She was finishing up and Keyes approached her with a ski mask and a gun. He demanded money and of course she complied because, well, you would. You're scared. And he forced himself inside the coffee shop. Obviously it was like she was closing up kind of thing. So he then used zip ties to tie both of her hands together, forcing her into a Ford Focus. So this girl was young. She was just 19 years old and obviously so frightened. He promised her that he was only abducting her for some ransom money and that if she listened, she would survive. So of course, she did everything he said.
Yeah,
like
as you would.
Yeah. And he promised her that he would take her home safe and sound. He actually drove Samantha tied up around for several hours. He took some big risks when it came to the coffee shop. He went back to the coffee shop to pick up her phone to message her boyfriend. And the message read, "Hey, I'm spending a couple of days with friends. Let my dad know." He took Samantha back to his house and he had like a little shed outside. Obviously it's really cold in Alaska, so I can't even imagine what this poor woman went through. So he took her back to the shed and left her there while he made yet another risky move. But this risky move is one that is just so chilling to me. So he wanted her debit card, but she didn't have it. And she said that it was in her boyfriend's truck. So who even has the guts to do this?
No.
He went to her boyfriend's truck and retrieved the debit card. And the worst thing of all this, and it's super sad, so the boyfriend actually caught him, but he just thought it was like
a robbery.
A robbery. And he chased him off. If he had stopped him and followed him, not that you would, but like, I'm sure he probably carries this around for the rest of his life because he had no idea that this guy was going to be his girlfriend's killer.
No, well, you wouldn't, would you?
No. And you'd have no idea. You would just think that someone was breaking in to steal your belongings, which obviously he did. He took the debit card. So he took the debit card, and this was all while she was tied up, freezing cold, in the shed. He arrived back home after he had stolen the debit card and obviously ran away from Samantha's boyfriend. He, unfortunately, bless her heart, he sexually assaulted her before ending her life. After he killed Samantha, he returned inside from the shed as if nothing had happened. He packed up for a cruise that he had planned. He was said to do quite a lot of travelling. And like any other day, off he went on his cruise. all while Samantha's body lay dead in his shed and her family all concerned about where she was. So a total of 16 days later, Keyes returned home. And obviously, 16 days is quite a long time. You would normally expect a body to decompose within that time.
Yeah.
But remember that she was in the shed.
And it's really cold.
It was freezing cold.
Yeah.
And you always see on the films that, you know, a dead body goes in the freezer, and it's because obviously it stops the decomposing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know the
Science of it.
Science of it, but it does. It slows it down. So 16 days later, he returns home. Before he created a ransom note, he applied makeup to Samantha's lifeless, cold body. And you can Google this if you want, but if you do, just be aware, it's quite disturbing. You can actually see the photo that he sent. And I think the most disturbing thing of it all is he applied makeup to her to make her look obviously more
Alive.
I was like, lifeless? No, that's... and he actually sewed her eyes open.
That's just
like
awful.
This man is so disturbed. Like, I mean, we already know that because of the crimes that he's committed, but to sew someone's... So he could take basically a Polaroid picture with that day's newspaper to prove that she was still alive. He then demanded £30,000 and text her boyfriend. He then discarded of Samantha's body and he was on the move again. Again, like nothing ever happened. A little bit like when he went on the cruise. I mean, just ridiculous. Like,
Did he get
the poor woman?
Did he get the £30,000?
I believe that him and his family and maybe, you know, like they normally come together as like a community. Yeah, I'm not 100%, so don't quote me on that, but I do believe that they might have got it. But he was obviously using her debit card as well. So he was getting money from her.
Yeah.
And I think what was asked is that it was wired into her bank account, and obviously they thought she was still alive. So they're going to do everything they can to get her back. Okay, so Keyes was actually pulled over at the traffic lights in Texas. So obviously we've moved on. We were in Alaska, now we're in Texas. This, again, he does like to travel. He's been a lot of places, which is what Kelly said in the beginning, that he was tied to a lot of missing cases, will come into play, and we'll touch on that because they have his whereabouts and his travel. So they were on the lookout for a white Ford Focus, because obviously they had CCTV from when she was kidnapped. However, this apparently, he was stopped, but apparently it was like a complete random stop at some traffic lights, which, I don't know, I would call that fake.
Yeah.
Like a complete random stop, but you managed to stop a serial killer, like, good work. And when they searched his vehicle, they found all the evidence they needed to basically make an arrest, such as Samantha's bank card, phone, a ski mask, and a gun. So if it wasn't for the CCTV that day at the coffee shop, the police believe that Keyes may never have been caught. Because obviously they managed to find out the car, they managed to know that Samantha had gone with him, so they were on the lookout for the car. They obviously had the messages from her phone to the boyfriend. His crimes were so thought out and planned. He had told the police that if he didn't tell them about the murders that he had committed, that they would probably never know about them. He confirmed that the amount of people he had killed was 3, but the police believe it to be so much more since he confessed. There's been numerous cases of missing people reported that could correspond with the movements that he made and would have placed him in or around those areas of these people that were missing. However, none of these have been confirmed, and they're just all speculation. I have listened, I don't know about you, but to so many cold cases of missing people that have not been solved, but he was around that area at the time.
Yeah. Because he's got no MO or no motive, and no victim type either, which is what makes him so dangerous, really, isn't it? Because how can you catch someone if you don't know what you're looking for?
Exactly. And you know, and also these people are missing, so they've never found the bodies, and they did, I will go on, but they did manage to find Samantha's body, but that's only because he told the police where it was, and he even said, if I never told you, you would never have found it. He was very, very thought out and planned, but also crime of opportunities where the people that he picked weren't necessarily planned. Because like you said, he has no MO. So he gave up all the information to the police, and he was very cooperative with the police about the kidnapping and the murder of Samantha. So he told them everything that they needed or wanted to know. But before he gave it all up, he did make them make one promise, and it was to make sure that the press were not to get hold of any of this information, because he had a daughter. And like, can you even believe that someone commits this crime when they have a daughter?
I know. And if you're that worried about what they're going to think, then just don't do it.
Right? And like, how can you have like a little girl and then do that to someone else's little girl?
I know.
It's just beyond me. But he said to them, I'll tell you everything you want to know. I'll give you the blow by blow if you want. I have lots more stories to tell. And that is word by word what he said to the police. So they were able to recover Samantha's body as Keyes gave them the information and location of her dismembered body. So the family, fortunately, were able to lay her to rest, bless her. And bless them, because they did get some closure, which I guess when your daughter's been missing for so long and you do suspect something, to be able to give her a funeral probably was nice for them eventually. So yeah, as we touched on earlier, his crimes were meticulously planned out. He buried kill kits. So again, this is something that I just haven't heard before either. To bury a kill kit like years before a murder that you committed, so that when you return to that place, it's there for you to commit a crime to whoever you just pick on the day. It's just wild. Like, I've never heard that before.
No, it's next level.
Next level planning.
Yeah.
And these kits would basically include items such as a gun, silencers, ligatures, ammunitions, bin bags, and he would hide them near where he would commit the crime. So two of the three victims that we actually know that were him, which he confessed to the police when he was cooperating, were couple Lorraine and Bill Currier. So he had broken into their home on June the 8th, 2011, but before even entering their home, he had cut the phone lines. When he entered, tied them up and drove them to an abandoned farmhouse. He had told the police they had murdered them, but in two different ways. So with Bill, he shot him in the basement of the farmhouse, and Lorraine was sexually assaulted by Keyes and then strangled to death. So he also doesn't have the same, like, he's not doing the same thing over and over again. He's killing all differently.
Yeah.
So again, it's quite hard for a serial killer. Normally has a pattern.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
and that's how sometimes they identify victims to the same serial killer, because they look at what's happened and they say, oh, these were murdered in the same way, it's the same type of person.
Yeah.
So if there's just absolutely no link, it's, unless they confess to it, it's impossible to tell.
Exactly. So again, really hard for all these missing cases as well to be linked to Keyes, because although he was there, he doesn't have like a trademark thing that he does with each victim. My God, my brain is just sizzled. To this day, their bodies, Bill and Lorraine's bodies, have unfortunately never been found. So again, when he said to the police, you'd never find the people that I've killed, he was right, because they know that he killed this couple, but they don't know where their body is.
So he's admitted to killing them, but didn't tell them where the bodies were, or they just couldn't find them when searching?
I don't know. So he admitted to killing them, but I don't know why they've never found the body, because obviously he gave up the body location for Samantha. He admitted that he had hid one of his kill kits 2 years prior to the attack near their home so that it could be used later to kill them both, which is just crazy. 2 years is a long time.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I forget what I do last week, let alone 2 years ago. How do you manage to find that same kit that you've buried? There are a number of things that Keyes did that separates him from other serial killers and that made him stay off police's radars for so long. If it wasn't for the CCTV, as we've mentioned before, the coffee shop, then Samantha's family may still be looking for her, like a lot of other missing people that were assumed to be linked to Keyes. For starters, he was extremely cautious with his crimes, and unlike a lot of serial killers we know, he had no specific type. He wasn't looking for a woman of a certain height, hair colour, or profession. He didn't care whether they were male or female, which meant no one was safe to him, which is such a scary thought, I think. Like, it doesn't matter who you are or what you did. However, he did tell the police that there were people that were off limits to him. And those two people that he put in those categories were parents and children. He would never kill a parent, or he'd never kill a child.
Serial killer with morals.
Right?
Everybody is somebody's child, aren't they? Even if they're not an actual kid.
I was just about to say that. I mean, Samantha was 19. She's not far from a kid, really, is she?
No, really not.
She's a year off being a kid, and she is someone's child. So, like, where does the line cross?
Yeah.
He didn't kill close to home, which is again why police think that he could be connected to so many different missing persons cases. He would never kill in the same area more than once, and during his trips he would only ever use cache, making it very hard to know his movements. So he was well thought out. The kill kits that I mentioned before were found in Alaska and New York. He did tell police and admit to having kill kits in other places, for example, Washington and Texas. Who knows how many were around and about, to be honest.
Yeah.
Probably a lot. Yeah, I think we've learned that he's a pretty disturbed human. And I do think that if he was alive and if he was open to talking to the police, then there would be so many cold cases that were resolved because he gave up information. But unfortunately, Anchorage homicide detective Monique Dole said to Keyes, he didn't kidnap and kill people because he's crazy. He didn't do it because he had a bad childhood. Israel Keyes did this because he got an immense amount of enjoyment, as much as an addict would get an immense amount of enjoyment out of drugs. In a way, he is an addict, and he was addicted to the feeling that he got when he was doing this. And when asked by the investigators why he committed the crime, Keyes simply replied, "Why not?" I mean, why not? Why not?
Why not?
Response. I mean, you could do a lot with your time. You could take up a hobby, knitting, literally anything. Doesn't have to, but why not, right? Why not? So on December the 2nd, 2012, Keyes was found dead in his prison cell. I just think this is just the worst thing ever. Like he shouldn't have the pleasure of being able to take his own life. Like, he should have to suffer and rot for a good while.
Is that what he did then? He killed himself?
Well, it was ruled a suicide, and underneath his body he left a lengthy note, which again can be found online if you wanted to read it. But it was a whole lot of kind of nothingness.
Yeah.
It didn't give any more information or clues on any of the other crimes that police were sure he had committed. It was, like I said, it's very lengthy. I won't go into it, and I don't want to give him that airtime to be able to read his note. But yeah, it was just kind of a whole lot of garble, but nothing significant or nothing that obviously the police wanted or needed to tie him in with any other crimes. Unfortunately, we'll probably never know how many deaths exactly Israel Keyes was responsible for, as he took his own life before the police were able to find it. Unfortunately, I just hope that one day, if there were more of his victims, that the family do get some sort of closure. Again, I don't know how, because it is hard to look for a pattern when then there's no pattern that exists.
Yeah.
But to me, this is, one of the worst. That he has no MO. He was planning years in advance. If he had planned and buried his kill kit near a house and just decided that, okay, whoever's in that house when I come back, that's who dies. How can you protect yourself from that?
No, you can't. And the police can't protect you either, because they don't know where he'll be or who he'll be going after. It's definitely a scary thought.
Yeah, so it was confirmed that he killed 3, but the police thought that he had killed at least 11.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had a daughter, which to me is just the wildest thing. I think as a parent, not just a parent, but I feel like parents have to have a level of to nurture, and we obviously cared about his kid because he didn't want her to find out. But I mean, she probably does now. Been a few years since that, so but yeah, he was just a little bit of, I don't think I said when he was born. He was 7th of Jan. Don't know if you're into horoscopes, but I think that makes him a Capricorn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know what that means, by the way. Capricorn, that's as far as it goes for me. 1978, so he was actually born in Richmond, Utah. But yeah, you can find all this information and the photos and the note online if you do want to look into it. But like I said, the photo of Samantha is quite chilling, to be honest, knowing that she's not alive. But it's the most alive body not that I've seen many, but of a photo. And I'm surprised he managed to get away with that.
I know, taking the time to stage something like that just for the sake of it is,
I know,
it's just awful. And it had a good 16 days away to think about it, and he
then
still
he
came back.
and
Yeah.
he chose violence again. I know, I just don't understand. And also, like, for me, you've gone away for 16 days. You know that there's a dead body in your shed. Are you not worried someone's going to find it?
I know.
Like,
I don't know how rural their houses are out in Alaska.
yeah, that's true.
So-
Like, I mean, in America, houses are more spread out. You've got more land, don't you, I think?
Yeah, whereas I can see into at least 3 of my neighbours' gardens.
Exactly. So I think in the UK you'd probably know about it, but out there, especially as it's cold, I don't know. It's just swanning around, spending her money and just no remorse. There must be something not right, switched off in the brain to not have a worry and just swan about,
No.
enjoy your holiday, like spend their money and not care about it.
Well, if his attitude was, why not?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
I shouldn't imagine he's worried about anything.
So that was my first story, and I feel like it started off quite well, and I can't wait for you to tell the next one. So like I said in the beginning, we're going to be taking it in turns to tell a story. I think Kelly is actually a lot better at telling stories than I am.
No pressure.
Well, every time you've told me a story, it's actually been like, I do a lot of, yeah, I think it was then, which obviously in these kind of podcasts you can't do. So I had to do a lot of research to make sure I had all the facts. If you enjoyed it, please let us know. We would love to hear. I think we should probably include a little bit about like maybe a 5-star review. That's what I hear them all saying.
The like and subscribe button.
Yeah, so I think you'll be able to listen to us on Apple Music, Spotify, and give us a like and subscribe. Do you subscribe on Spotify? I'm not sure. Or a follow. Yeah, if possible, leave us a 5-star review. I hope you enjoyed our first episode. How do you think we did, Kelly?
I think it went all right.
I think it went all right.
Same time next week.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to be releasing a podcast. It's going to be weekly, and it will be hitting your podcasts wherever you listen to them on a Monday morning at 7:00. So please join us then.
Yay! So exciting! I think we did really well. Let's do a virtual high five.
Away.
Yay! Yeah, we hope you come back for the next episode, and like we said, give us a like, subscribe or follow, and leave us a 5-star review and let us know what you think.
Bye.